Manu, you've gotten a hold of a Democratic document about Dr. Jackson. What can you tell us?
Yeah, this is a document compiled by staff to Senator Jon Tester, who's the ranking Democrat on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. And this comes after that staff had interviewed 23 people who had either worked with Dr. Ronny Jackson or who are currently working with Ronny Jackson. They lay out explosive details and allegations about his past misconduct. And again, these are allegations that have not been fully substantiated and that this committee is investigating, but enough to delay a confirmation hearing that had been scheduled for today as this committee investigates. Now, these allegations fall into three different categories. One involves how he's prescribed drugs in the past in a loose manner, according to this document. Another one dealing with how he administered an office and had abusive behavior towards his colleagues, particularly people who worked underneath him, allegedly. And number three, about drunkenness, drinking on the job, and particularly on trips overseas. And in one particularly damaging allegation, it says at a Secret Service going away party, Jackson got drunk and wrecked a government vehicle. It also says on at least one occasion, Jackson could not be reached when he was needed because he was passed out drunk. And at one time, it talks about him holding a medical bag, and he was intoxicated at the time while he was holding this medical bag. But other allegations as well, causing some alarm on Capitol Hill, particularly when it comes to prescribing medication, saying that he had gave large supply of Percocet, the pain medication, to a White House military officer, and he had private stocks of controlled substances. Also, he would not track how he handed out the sleeping medication Ambien, as well as Provigil, which is a drug to use to wake people up. Those controlled substances required tracking, which allegedly he did not do. And people would come to him to get these medications because other physicians would not, according to these allegations. Now, Wolf, this is compiled again by the Democrats, but the Republicans themselves view these as very serious. They want to investigate this further, including the chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, Jonny, who told me earlier today that they want to get to the bottom of all of these allegations, and that's one reason why they delayed today's confirmation hearing. And another Republican on that committee, Mike Rounds, who sits on that committee, Wolf, told me these are coming from credible individuals who are bringing forward these allegations, even as the White House said that he has been fully vetted, his past background checks in the past, and that Jackson himself has denied crashing a car, something he said just moments ago. There's still enough concern on Capitol Hill that there's his nomination in serious doubt of ultimately getting this job.
Very serious doubt indeed. Manu, thank you very much. Dr. Ronny Jackson spoke out just a little while ago about the new allegations against him as the White House is ramping up its defense of him, calling his record, quote, impeccable and his vetting thorough. Let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. Jim, Dr. Jackson is defying any pressure to step aside, at least for now, right?
That's right, Wolf. Dr. Ronny Jackson is not backing down. He spoke to reporters a few moments ago outside of Sarah Sanders' office, the White House press secretary, telling reporters that he has not wrecked a car. At one point, he was asked about this allegation that he drove drunk and wrecked a car. He said, no, I have not wrecked a car before. I can tell you that. He was also asked about this allegation that he is not prescribing properly opioids and other prescription drugs. And at one point, Dr. Jackson said in response to that question, I can't tell you where that's coming from. And then the final question was put to him, are you still moving forward with your nomination? And he said, yes, at this point, he's still moving forward. And so at this point, it seems Dr. Ronny Jackson is trying to hang in there despite all of this pressure coming from Capitol Hill to step aside, including one House Democrat on the Veterans Committee over in the House saying that he should do just that and step aside. Meanwhile, as you were saying earlier, Wolf, the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders, she came to the podium in the briefing earlier today defending Ronny Jackson, saying that he had been vetted by multiple administrations, had received praise from former President Obama, and so on. But I asked Sarah Sanders about the fact that the president yesterday at a news conference with the French president, Emmanuel Macron, over here at the White House, suggested that Dr. Ronny Jackson lacks the necessary experience to run the VA. She claims that the president didn't say that. Here's how the exchange went down earlier today. Yesterday, the president suggested that Dr. Jackson does not have the experience to run the Department of Veterans Affairs. Is that a fair assessment? Did he lack that experience?
That's not what the president said. I think you're taking some of his words out of context. And based on your tweet today, I know you don't appreciate when people take your words out of context. So I'd appreciate if you not do that to the president. If he didn't think he had the experience, he wouldn't have nominated. He said that that had been one of the questions that people had posed about him.
Now, in fact, we have the quote right here from the president yesterday, Wolf. He said, "I know there is an experience problem because of lack of experience, but there is an experience problem." So contrary to what Sarah Sanders tried to tell us in the briefing room earlier today, she tried to pull a fast one and spin herself out of that question. Unfortunately, though, she was not sticking to the facts. The president did suggest yesterday at this news conference that Dr. Ronny Jackson lacks the experience to run the Department of Veterans Affairs, and that obviously is going to be one of the primary questions facing Dr. Jackson if and when he gets another hearing date. We're hearing from White House officials, including Sarah Sanders, saying that at this point they do want to try to reschedule that hearing, that confirmation hearing for Dr. Jackson. At this point, no date has been scheduled, but obviously the White House would like to see that get back on the schedule, and Dr. Jackson is vowing to fight